we'll know all about it. Some further along than that, but it's all attitude at that point, or lack thereof. It seems that the longer time drags on and the longer time drags on and the more immoral and selfish mankind becomes, the more we want the Bible to reflect our insolence and bend to our weakness. Yet, there was an indication early on that this book was not ours, whatever our thoughts about it, but was written for us. A slight but incredibly important difference. The book was written by men, handpicked for that mission by its author, the Father. His long-term intention for the earth was told to us from the book itself. And start off in Hebrews, the first chapter, the 10th verse. Hebrews, the first chapter, the 10th verse. And you, Elohim, at the beginning, founded the earth. And the heavens are works of your hands. They will vanish away. Note that. They will vanish away, but you will continue. And they will all become old like a garment, and you shall fold them up like a covering, and they shall be changed. That's pulling all that up. Yeah. Try it now. Say something, anything.
It's going in and out. I think that's what's
I'm not either at this point. Verse 12, and you shall fold them up like a covering, and they shall be changed, but you are the same, and your years shall not fail. This passage was also initially found in the Torah, the Old Testament. Psalms, the 107th Psalms, the 102nd chapter, 25th verse. Psalms, the 102nd chapter, the 25th verse. Before time, you founded the earth, and the heavens are the work of your hands. They shall perish, but you shall endure. Yea, all of them shall wear out like a garment. You shall change them like clothing, and they shall all be changed. But you are he, and your years shall not be ended. The sons of your servants shall dwell, and their seed shall be established before you. And to make the point Yahweh makes of himself here, go to Malachi, the 3rd chapter, the 6th verse. For I, Yahweh, change not. Because of this, you sons of Jacob are not consumed. Point being, the earth will eventually cease to exist. In Elohim's time, of course. But all who conform to his will and follow his plan will exist with Elohim in whatever form and in whatever habitation that he will form after the earth. The earth is physical and will not last so long, will last so long as physical beings will be there to inhabit it. This is promised, but the parameter of that promise is yet to be seen. The new earth, like we and Elohim, might be spirit-based, but we will see when it happens. I don't have a horse in that race, but we all win. But the slowness of Yahweh moving toward this reality apparently is just enough for some to take on too much on themselves. Restlessness in these ones. I read a fascinatingly shallow article this week claiming to know why young people have abandoned the church. Hear this from the new generation. Christianity and young people's culture have always clashed. This isn't new. More than ever, the digitized global community we live in demands that the church somehow constantly elevate how it will be relevant to this and emerging generations. As the church seeks to preserve tradition, it constantly will be faced with resistance from rebellious young people. The church continues to alienate young people with old, stagnant ideas that young people don't view as innovative enough to keep up with their lives in this digital age. Minority, I don't like that word millennials because it limits people and sequesters people off into little groups. Those groups are not that different from anyone else, but every oncoming generation thinks that they're doing something completely new, and they're not. And for the sake of time, I will read it the way it reads, but minority millennials are experiencing economic and social benefits that previous generations only dreamed about. As a result, a need for faith in their lives may not have the same pull as it did in the past. Feeling judged and being told to check their generational habits at the door does not necessarily create a want for religious life either. We need a rather large rack for these wines that they have. There are quite a few of them, old wines here. That is wines, W-H-I-N-E-S. And Elohim has heard them all before. And that's who they should direct them toward. Yahweh's church is here to serve you, but according to the directions of Yahweh, not according to the capricious whimsy of man. The most amazing stories are found in the Bible. Many of them are unbelievable, so the young and intellectually bent simply don't believe them. Yet, they believe worldly things that are more bent than a pretzel, without question, and refuse to believe or question them. Out of fear, they will offend someone. That's paramount these days. Offend no one, ever, for any reason. We are told to come to church, not because it is a perfect place. It is not. But it is based on the teachings of a book that, when taught properly, the book is perfect. And if followed perfectly, your life will become all the better. Problem is, most don't understand the book. And many who do have some understanding have chosen to follow the world rather than follow the book. The world, as we have already seen, will not be here always. And in the end, it will follow the book or else. But our obedience to this book's way of life holds a rather unfathomable promise for all who remain true to it. According to the way and the law of Elohim. 1 John, the 2nd chapter, the 15th verse. 1 John, the 2nd chapter, the 15th verse. Do not love the world, nor the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. Because all that which is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life is not of the Father, but is of the world. And the world is passing away, and its lust, but the one doing the will of Elohim abides forever. That will is cleverly placed in the books of the Bible. It is a lifetime endeavor to find that will. 1. 2, to adhere to it in all forms. This is the problem as I see it. We humans are creatures of our environment, and our environment is socially toxic. And especially right now, it is environmentally toxic as well from this COVID-19 thingy. And that's all I can say right now. I'm still compiling information about what this is. And the information is there. It's a thingy. It was created. That's all I can say right now. It's not natural. It's created. But regardless, we tend to make an effort to blend in and do what the majority of people do. And somehow in this whole pandemic, the thing to do is rebel. How novel. How novel as this thing is. They call it novel. That in science is something they have never encountered before. In this case, though, I will tell you why they've never encountered it before, but not today. But as this thing goes forward, in this blind following of social mores and habits, we eventually find ourselves bending to the will of society, even when it goes against the word of Elohim. We must first accept that and make a determination to stand up. Whenever the society goes against the word of Elohim, we must again first accept that we have found ourselves in this state of being bent towards society and make a determination to stand up out of that bend for the will of Elohim, if nothing else. A title today, to bend or stand up. That's our choice. To bend or stand up, straight as a rail. The whining about the church is hardly important. Young people will always do that. There is a need in the young to believe that they have new answers in an old world. Every generation does it. That's not something millennial. I don't use that term much because that's the tag they put on them. Everything is so new to them. It's new to them because they're young. Wait a few years. And they will find that the last generation turned on and turned out the way that they were the same way they did, and the one before that. And the one before that. And the one before that. Like I said before, there is a need in the young to believe that they have new answers to an old world. And they later on find out that there is another reality behind the scenes that they know not of. And like Satan, the world tells them that it does not exist. Yet it does. Just as it did in Nebuchadnezzar's Babylon. Steeped in paganism, false gods, and backbiting and evil. Turn to Daniel, the 3rd chapter. Daniel, the 3rd chapter, the 1st verse. Nebuchadnezzar, the king, made an image of gold, whose height was 60 cubits, and its breadth 6 cubits wide. He set it up in the plain of Dura, in the province of Babylon. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king sent to gather together the satraps, the prefects, the governors, the counselors, the treasurers, the judges, the justices, and all the officials of the provinces to come to the dedication of the image which Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. Then were gathered the satraps, the prefects, the governors, the counselors, the treasurers, the judges, the justices, and all the officials of the provinces to the dedication of the image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. And they stood before the image that Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Then a herald cried aloud, "To you it is commanded, O people, nations, and languages, at the time you hear the sound of the horn, the pipe, the zither, the lyre," already hearing that, harp, the bagpipe, and all kinds of music, you shall fall down and worship the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king has set up. And whoever does not fall down and worship at that moment will be thrown into the middle of a fiery, burning furnace. Verse 7. Therefore, at that time, when all the people heard the sound of the horn, the pipe, the zither, the harp, the lyre, the harp, and all kinds of music, all the people, the nations, and languages fell down and worshiped the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. Then at that time, certain Chaldeans came near and accused the Jews. That's the popular thing to do, accuse the Jews. That goes on today. All of this stuff about racism and everything else, no one has been accusing anyone of anything against the Jews, but it's gonna start soon. Verse 9. They spoke and said to King Nebuchadnezzar, O king, live forever. I wish. You, O king, have made a decree that every man who shall hear the sound of the horn, the pipe, the zither, the lyre, the harp, and the bagpipe, and all kinds of music, shall fall down and worship the golden image. And whoever does not fall down and worship, he shall be thrown into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. There are men, Jews, whom you have set over the business of the province of Babylon. Yeah, that's what they were going to do. The ones that you set up, O king, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, do not heed you. They do not serve your gods, small g, nor worship the golden image which you have set up. Then Nebuchadnezzar, in anger and wrath, commanded them to bring him Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Then they brought these men before the king. Nebuchadnezzar spoke and said to them, Is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? Do you not serve my gods, nor worship the golden image which I have set up? Now, if you are ready, at the time you hear the sound of the horn, the pipe, the zither, the harp, and the bagpipe, and all kinds of music, fall down and worship the image which I have made. But if you do not worship in that moment, you shall be thrown into the fire. And who is that God who shall deliver you out of my hand? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to return a word on this matter. If it is so, whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace. Then he will deliver us out of your hand, O king. That took strength. And I chose this because this is the exact same scenario that we will be in the end times. This is our instruction on how to do it. The ones that are faking will be found out. The ones who really believe in God and will bet their lives on it will be found out and rewarded accordingly. Verse 18, but if not, let it be known to you, O king, that we will not serve your gods, small g, nor worship the golden image that you have set up. Then Nebuchadnezzar was filled with wrath, and the form of his face was changed against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He spoke and commanded that they should heat the furnace 7 times more hot than it was usually heated. And he commanded mighty men in his army to tie up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and to throw them into the burning fiery furnace. Then these men were tied up in their slippers, their tunics, and their mantles. They got them in their sleeping clothes. Thin as they were, and they went anyway. That's bravery. That's what we will show in these end times, not fear. And these men were tied up in their slippers, their tunics, and their mantles, and their other clothes, and were thrown into the middle of the burning fiery furnace. Then because the king's commandment was urgent, and the fire furnace exceedingly hot, the flame of the fire killed those men who took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these three men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell down, bound into the midst of the fiery, burning furnace. Then Nebuchadnezzar, the king, was amazed, and he rose up in haste and spoke and said to his advisors, "Did we not throw 3 men bound into the middle of the fire?" They answered and said to the king, "True, O king." He answered and said, "Behold, I see 4 men loose, walking around in the middle of the fire, and there is no harm around them." And the form of the 4th is like a son of Yahweh. Yes. Then Nebuchadnezzar came near to the door of the burning fiery furnace. He answered and said, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God," capital G, "come forth and come here." Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came forth from the middle of the fire. And the satraps, the prefects, the governors, and the king's advisors gathered and saw these men on whose bodies the fire had no power. And the hair on their heads was not scorched, nor were their slippers changed, nor had the smell of fire clung on to them. They were not touched in the middle of a fire. 28. Nebuchadnezzar said and spoke this, "Blessed be the God, capital G, of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who had sent his angel." No, that's not what happened. He came down himself. And has delivered his servants who trusted in him. That's our clue right there. Trust in him. Yes, it is. Trust in him, and have changed the king's words, and have given their bodies that they might not serve nor worship any god except their own Elah. That's a Hebrew word of unknown origin, Elah. It's a god of some sort that the Chaldeans approve of. Verse 29, and a decree is given to me by me that every nation, people, nation, and language who speak anything amiss against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be made into mere members, and his house shall be an outhouse. Because there is no other God who can deliver in this way. Then the king made Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego prosper in the province of Babylon. Whatever is to come, we also must stand up and honor the law of Elohim rather than the edicts of man. Elohim will save us from any evil that we are confronted with that challenges his word. That's the difference. Some stuff you make up on your own head. I saw the other day someone had a flagpole with a mask on it. Y'all wearing those masks, that's y'all flag. And some people actually believe that stuff. This thing is, while trumped up, better than use another word. This is something that is real, but it was made by man, and he's trying to control it, but he won't. But until he does, and I've already told you that he won't, wear something over your face, because everybody that doesn't eventually will catch this thing one way or the other. That's the way he planned it. I was pointing down to anybody that doesn't see it. Note also what happened to Peter in the days 1 year after the martyrdom of Yeshua. And we'll find this one in Acts, the 12th chapter, the first verse. Acts, the 12th chapter, the first verse. Now, at that time, Herod the king stretched forth his hands to mistreat certain ones of the congregation, or the ecclesia, the church, the called out ones. Verse 2, and he called James, the brother of John. He killed James, the brother of John, with the sword. And because he saw that it pleased the Jews, he proceeded further to take Peter also. These were the days of unleavened bread. And when he had apprehended him, he put him in prison and delivered him to 4 quaternions of soldiers to keep him. 14 soldiers to keep one man. The guy was a thug. This Herod, he was a thug. That many men for one man? But what happened? Verse 4, and when he apprehended him, he put him in prison and delivered him to 4 quaternions of soldiers to keep him, intending after the Passover to bring him before the people. Peter therefore was kept in prison, and the congregation made prayers without him unto Yahweh for him. And when Herod would have brought him forth, the same night Peter was sleeping between 2 soldiers, bound with chains. And the guards before the door kept the prison. And behold, the angel of Elohim came upon him, and a light shone in the prison. And he smote Peter on the side and woke him up, saying, Arise quickly. And his chains fell off his hands. And the angel said, unto him, Gird yourself and bind on your sandals. And so he did. And he said unto him, Cast your garment about you and follow me. And he went out and followed him, and knew not that it was true what was done by the angel, but thought he saw a vision. When they were past the first and second guard, they came in onto the iron gate that leads into the city, which opened to them on its own. And remember, this was during the days of unleavened bread. He was supposed to be keeping the days of unleavened bread. This allowed him to do what he was supposed to do for Yahweh. When they were, verse 10, when they were past the first and second guard, they came unto the iron gate that leads into the city, which opened to them of its own accord. And they went and passed on through the streets. And then the angel departed from him. And when Peter was come to himself, he said, Now I know of a surety that Elohim has sent his angel and has delivered me out of the hand of Herod and from all the people of the Jews who waited for me. And considering this, he came to the house of Mary, the mother of John, whose surname was Mark. Where many were gathered together praying. And as Peter knocked at the door of the patio, a damsel came named Rhoda. And when she recognized Peter's voice, she opened not the gate for gladness, but ran and told how Peter stood at the gate. And they said unto her, You are mad. These days, you're crazy. But she constantly affirmed that it was so. Then they said, It is his angel. But Peter continued knocking. And when they had opened the door and saw him, they were astonished. But he, beckoning them with the one hand to be silent, declared unto them how Elohim had brought him out of the prison. And he said, "Go make these things known unto James and to the brethren." And he departed and went to another place. Now, as soon as it was day, there was no small stir among the soldiers concerning what had become of Peter. And when Herod had sought for him and found him not, he examined the guards and commanded that they should be executed. Then he went down from Judea to Caesarea and abode there. These stories are here to lift our spirits and show the power of Elohim to save us from any situation if we remain true to his word and his law. And when we fail and repent, he will restore us through his grace. This is the reality of faith in Yeshua. The modern world doubts the reality of Elohim, thus rarely sees true miracles. We have, and we'll see even more and better. Yet, they even disparage the simple act of worship unless it includes allowing them to repackage that worship and even the Word of God to reflect their flimsy expectations. These attitudes are reflective of the lack of understanding of true faith in total. Faith doesn't expect Yahweh to give us what the world demands that we want. It is a constant irritant that so many in the media talk about what the church should do to make the community better. Yet no one is telling the miscreants in the community what they should do to make the community less dangerous, violent, and evil for children and the elderly. Not being associated with churches of the true and living God, most expect the same things they've gotten from the world's churches for so long, and not knowing that they got it from a Catholic church that does little outside of the boundaries of their own dictates. The Church of God is here to prepare us for the world to come and to worship Yahweh in Yeshua. And they have instructed us. Few have even heard the truths of the Bible intact. Certain truths they haven't heard at all. That one about not using people and usury and so much, they haven't heard about that. And money in the church eschew this as if it's not real. And that's something I'm going to come up with very soon. The proof that it's real. The whole financial system of this world is against this book. The whole thing is against this book. And another thing that they don't want to hear too often when you start talking about the fact that there will be no moolah in heaven. What? How we gonna live? Very well, thank you. better than we are now. The Church of God is here to prepare us for the world to come and to worship Yahweh and Yeshua as they have instructed us. Few have even heard of the truths of the Bible intact, as I've said. Others have heard, but don't yet believe them to be true. Yet, the truth will come as prophecy in the end time. Believe it or not at your own peril. However, many are so locked into what they see in the world that many still not hearing the truth when it comes to them. Or they may consider the world's orders more important than the ones given by Elohim. In the end, just as Nebuchadnezzar did, the beast power ruling the earth at that time through a one world government will enforce worship of an idol beast. Think about that while the young people are currently preoccupied with these statues of the past. When the beast power and Satan appears on the earth, he will consolidate the diversity of Babylon's mystery religions into one world church, state, and religion. Many will like this ecumenical mix initially. With all of the violence, destruction, and death in the world, many will feel that this mix will bring people together, not realizing that the faith that they have come together under is not of Elohim, is a worship of Satan the devil. At that time, wicked people rebelling against both Yahweh and the devil will have no choice but to worship the devil or die. Many who are not serious about their faith in this age may fall into this trap, believing that fealty to the beast will save them because of the ecumenical nature of the beast's one world religion. But any who worship the beast or the image will lose their eternity. It will be based on a Sunday or sun worship, as we have seen so many times. Now is the time to learn these things and understand them fully. This ego-driven need to make your church reflect the worldly facade of your life is not worth losing it. All because you believed the lies that the world taught you about the Bible. The Bible does not condone slavery in the details. In fact, in ancient Israel, no less, it was a death penalty offense. Deuteronomy, the 24th chapter, 7th verse. 24/7, y'all. Not me, the book. Deuteronomy, the 24th chapter, the 7th verse. If a man is found stealing a person of his brothers of the sons of Israel and has dealt with him as a slave and sold him, then that thief shall die. And you shall put away the evil from among you. Oh, that's the Old Testament. This isn't. 1 Timothy, 9th chapter. Knowing this, that law is not laid down for a righteous one, but for lawless ones and undisciplined ones, for ungodly ones and sinful ones, for unholy and profane ones, for slayers of fathers and slayers of mothers, for murderers, for fornicators, for homosexuals, for slave traders, for liars, for perjurers. That's lying in open court. A lot of that going on nowadays. All the way up to the White House down. And it's always been there. It didn't start with this president. All of them have done it to some degree. And if any other thing opposes sound doctrine. Doctrine, that's biblical thought, right? That's things that are illegal according to the Bible, right? And these kids out here now killing up everybody and shooting in people's homes and that, and nobody tells anything, not snitching or telling what you know of crimes, that also is biblical sin. Leviticus 5, the first chapter. And when a person commits sin because they know, because they were called to testify under oath, and he was a witness that he had seen or known of it, if he does not declare it, then he shall bear his iniquity. The same charge that the person was under, the person not telling will be under the same charge. That's Bible, not Ray. Much of modern life, as borne out in the media, may well be against some sins. It champions others. I don't get into that here. I don't have time. But much of the modern doctrine is also unbiblical and based on errant denominational teachings. When the truth of Elohim is revealed prophetically in the end time tribulation, all this will either be accepted as truth and lived as seen, even if it temporarily costs you your life. We must all lean as much as possible on the truth of Elohim. There is great courage in knowing the fullness of Yahweh's truth. This truth will remove doubt and remove fear. If we happen to find ourselves in a situation like Peter's or Shadrach and Meshach and Abednego's, we will have to endure it because we know that Yeshua will see us through it and reward us on the sea of glass at the end. Let us stand up for this word of Elohim. Any questions? Yeah.
So going back to Daniel chapter 3, verse, let me get the verse. Can you all hear me outside? No? Can you hear me? Okay. Going back to Daniel chapter 3, when, I'm not sure. Let me just find it real quick. I'm sorry. When Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were found untouched, and one of the people said it was like the Son of God. But verse 23 says his angel.
Yeah.
You said that was wrong? It was...
No, that was what the Nebuchadnezzar said. That was recorded there.
Oh, gotcha. Gotcha, okay. Okay. So it was Yeshua the Messiah that was in there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's all.
Okay, I'm done. If you're done with the questions.